Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Monster69 with another closer look episode. And in this video, we're going to look at probably the most important ship manufacturer in the verse, Robert Space Industries. Robert Space Industries. Well, we're going to go through the name and analyze why it's called Robert Space Industries. We're going to look at some of the lore, and then as usual, we're going to look at the fleet of ships and also where they are headquartered. So let's start off with the name, RSI, Robert Space Industries. Well, since Star Citizen was invented by Mr. Chris Roberts, he's also got a in-game persona called Chris Roberts. And in-game Chris Roberts is the person that, if you like, created Robert Space Industries. Now, why is it called Space Industries? Because RSI did not originally start manufacturing ships. In fact, they were building a whole bunch of other things before they started manufacturing ships. So therefore, that's why, hence the name Space Industries. We'll get into that in a little while. For those that have been following my video series, I've always been wondering which ship manufacturer is like the oldest one. Drake was, I think, about 100 years old. Misk was about 150 years old. But Robert Space Industries was there from the beginning. It's the oldest and most influential ship manufacturer today in the verse. It's a multinational corporation, and it designs and manufactures and sells spaceships, vehicles, ship components, and spacesuits. That's why it's called Space Industries. It's not just a ship manufacturer. It was formed in 2038 on planet Earth. So we'll have a look at planet Earth a little bit later on by a young and enterprising inventor called Chris Roberts, as I mentioned before. And his mythos is learn from the past, reach for the future, fuel innovation, cultivate talent, always be relevant. That's the tenet of Mr. Chris Roberts, or in-game Chris Roberts. So in the 21st century, traveling to space was a really rare event, and it was very cost prohibitive for civilians to do so. And at that time, Earth was reaching a critical mass, overpopulation, numerous wars were erupting, and people faced food shortage, water shortages, and also energy shortages. Kind of, I don't want to say it sounds familiar yet, but yeah, I don't think we're heading in a different trajectory, to be honest. So Roberts formed a team to try and alleviate these type of problems. And in 2043, RSI released its first product, which was actually a hyper-efficient battery converter for ground vehicles. And then they went on to make water purification systems, energy efficient power networks, and so on. But Chris's passion for space travel kept driving him forward. And when he met an engineer called Scott Childress, here is a photo of Scott Childress, a talented engineer who in 2075 announced the first quantum drive. So RSI invented the quantum drive technology that we use today. So huge breakthrough. And imagine the power and stuff they would have garnered because of this technology that they would have patented. So now the nations of Earth could push the boundaries and travel further into deep space. However, overpopulation was still not solved. Chris formed another dedicated team to try and produce some terraforming technology, but he passed away before he could achieve this dream, and it took another 40 years where finally RSI invented the Atmo processor, which led on to becoming terraforming technology. So we got quantum drive being invented by RSI, and now terraforming. So really, without RSI, humanity would have no chance expanding out into the verse. The first planet that was terraformed was Mars, and there was a great tragedy at Mars where 5,000 settlers died, obviously called the Mars tragedy, and that deserves a whole separate video. And anyway, humanity persevered. They stayed on Mars, and another problem was getting supplies to the planet. So this is when RSI created the Astro Development Team, and that's in fact where they created the first spacecraft called the Zeus. which should be up on your screen now. So this is the first RSI aircraft, a spacecraft that was created. Once the Messrs took control of the empire, if you like, RSI's military contracts were then taken away. The Mesa era was 2546 to 2792. So RSI fell out of favor with the dictator that was running the empire at that time. And in 2757, their contracts kept shrinking until Ulysses Mesa X pretty much publicly blamed RSI for the death of Anthony Tanaka. Now, Anthony Tanaka also deserves his own little video, and a separate video, because he's a guy that, a young boy that died in a factory in poor conditions, and it kind of sparked the revolution that dislodged the Messrs from the seat of the empire. But in 2757, in response to the death of Anthony Tanaka, the then RSI CEO, Abel Gadima, acknowledged the sad death, and he ordered a complete evaluation of all of RSI's facilities to make sure they were adhering to all health and safety standards. But Ulysses Mesa, the dictator who was kind of like having problems with a potential revolution, kept piling on more and more blame onto RSI, saying it was actually nothing to do with, the government or the empire. It was to do with RSI's working conditions. And at the end of the day, Gadima stepped aside. But it didn't stop the tides of change for Ulysses Mesa. So it wasn't until the end of the Mesa era that RSI's military contracts were reinstated, and today their Bengal line of ships and Pegasus line of escort carriers are utilized by the United Empire of Earth as well. So that's a short history of RSI. We can see how extremely important it is. They invented the quantum drive, they invented terraforming, and they also were involved or blamed for one of the biggest political incidents in the history of the UEE, or humanity. So very, very central to the progress of humankind. Now, there's certain departments in RSI. We've got certain information on this. So they've got the Astro Development Team, which these guys design small civilian ships like the Aurora, like the Constellation. They've got the Capital Development Team. These guys are responsible for very large military ships like the Bengal and others. And then they've got the Engine Development Team. These guys continue to do R&D on quantum drive technology and power plants and thrusters. They're headquartered in Moscow. And then they've got an Experimental Development Team. They do kind of hush-hush, top-secret government contracts. No one knows about what they do. Most of their projects are not listed or publicly available. And then they've got another department called the Future Foundation. This is where RSI tries to give back to the community. They give to charities. They fund, up-and-coming entrepreneurs and people that might be creating some new innovative technologies and so on. So they also donate that as well. So let's have a look at the fleet, guys. Here we are. So what are we looking at here, guys? We got two very big ships here. Like these things dwarf the Javelin. These are massive, massive ships. We've got the Pegasus here, and we've got the Bengal. But I want you in your mind to split this screen into two. So where you can see the Bengal and the ships underneath, these are high-end, very large military ships. And then on the right, is it right-hand side? Will it be your right-hand side? Yes, your right-hand side as well. I'm getting my lefts and rights. I think your right-hand side is literally ships for the people and some industry ships as well. So we can see immediately RSI very much has like 1 foot firmly in very high-end, very large military ships. And then on the other side, we've got ships they make for the people to consume, for civilians, kind of like Drake, and some that specialize in industry mining and medical industry specifically. So let's quickly run through these ships. I'm not going to run through exactly the details of these ships, guys. I'd like to do a series of individual videos per ship if I have the time in the future. The aim of this video is to get a high level overview of RSI as a ship manufacturer. So we got the Bengal, which is a fleet carrier. Think of it as a super aircraft carrier where we're talking squadrons and squadrons of fighters can take off from this thing and literally dominate an area of space. This thing is huge and extremely powerful, and it can project power across massive distances, as it's a massive carrier. And the Pegasus, which is more an in-law, more of a ship that's in-law than will be available, I believe, I could be wrong, is a escort, is a super carrier escort. And both of them, you can see the design language of RSI, a lot of angles, not many curved surfaces, and this is RSI's design language, as we all know. So these are massive. I'm talking 1 kilometer long, this ship Bengal is, and the Pegasus is not that much smaller. So you would have these two in 923 meters, yeah. So you would have these two kind of side by side. You probably have one Bengal and a couple of Pegasuses escorting it in a super fleet, to be honest. Then if we zoom in below that, we've got the Polaris and we've got the Perseus. Now the Polaris is a Corvette class capital ship. Let me just bring up some of its details. It's got a crew of 24 people, and it's designed as a naval patrol ship and to serve as the flagship of civilian militia operations. The Polaris has the capacity to perform search and rescue operations, strike missions, and security patrols. So that's essentially what the Polaris is used for. And the Perseus is a frigate class. The Perseus here, which is smaller, you can see at 100 meters. The Polaris is at 175 meters. The Perseus is a sub-capital class shredder gunship. So it's designed to destroy anything below a capital class. So again, you would probably have some Perseuses escorting a Polaris potentially. RSI has. And remember again about the structure of RSI. We had the two different departments. I keep forgetting their names. The capital development team are the ones that make the military ships, and then you got the astro development team, which make the small civilian ships. And you can distinctly see that in the fleet of ships that they have. So quickly, the astro side of things, if you like, the civilian side of things, the Aurora series of ships that we're very familiar with. We've got, you know, Pathfinder variants within the Aurora class. We've got light fighters, and we've got a freight as well within the Aurora class. We all know and love the Aurora. To me, it's an ugly ship, but it's a very dear ship to all of us, because it's it's that starter ship that a lot of us maybe started with. I do love it as a runabout. I do love the cockpit, the sort of almost 180 degree or 360 degree view, not 360, 180 degree view that you get in the cockpit despite the struts. But yeah, it's kind of quintessential Star Citizen starter ship, isn't it? They also make the Ursa Rover, which is a fun vehicle, one of my favorite ground vehicles. It's got 6 wheels. It's got a nice, useful turret on the top, and it can carry, you know, I think 6 people in the back. I could be wrong. We had a lot of fun with the Ursa Rover attacking a point of interest that was controlled by the Ninetails, and yeah, just sort of driving in amongst it and blasting the Ninetails with the turret was really super fun. I love the Rover. It's one of my favorite, I think most useful ground vehicles. Then we've got the Mantis, which is very unique. This is quantum dampener, quantum snare equipped ship dedicated to essentially preventing people from using their quantum drive and pulling people out of quantum drive as well. So for police, for military, and for pirates that want to entrap people, and orgs that want to stop people from running away, the Mantis is the ship for you at 30 meters. Again, a very smooth ride, very angular features in the design language of the Mantis, and a unique ship at the moment. Only RSI has a ship that can do both quantum snare and quantum dampening. And then we've got another cult favorite, another fan favorite, sorry, you're not cultists, sorry, Connie guys, I'm sorry. Constellation series, which again, for civilians mainly. We've got 4 different variants. We've got the Phoenix, which is a touring luxury ship. And boy, do I love the interior of the Phoenix. It's just so well designed. There's windows, there's just nice places to sit. There's a bar, and you can just sit whether at the dining table or in the seats, and just really look out the wonderful windows that the Phoenix has. It's a joy to be a passenger on the Phoenix. I love it. We've got the Aquila, we've got the Taurus, which is the logistics ship for freight. We've got the Andromeda for it's kind of like a freight gunship. So to me, there's different between military ships and kind of combat ships. Combat ships, when I say combat ships, I mean combat ships that are sort of designed for the civilian in mind. Yes, you can go and defend yourself, or you can attack someone with it, but it doesn't have that kind of high level quality that a military ship has. So that's the Constellation series. Really awesome multi-crew ship, really versatile ship. You can carry vehicles, you can live in it, you got beds. It's got 2 turrets, one up and one below. You've got the Parasite ship that connects to, I think, is it the Aquila or the Andromeda or both? It's got a Parasite ship that is super fun to detach from, and you've got a fighter escort. So very popular, versatile ship. Then you've got the huge, or the largest mining ship in the verse, the Orion, which is a mean or ugly looking thing here, but it's a powerhouse of industry. RSI's created the largest mining ship, and you'd think maybe MISC would have done it, but no, RSI's gazumped them. And here is the Orion, and it's not in game yet, but it'll be an interesting ship to watch as it sort of destroys planets, I suppose. I'm kind of exaggerating, but yeah, should be awesome. And then we've got some Apollo Medivac and the Apollo Triage, which are medical ships, really good dedicated medical ships. Can't wait for these to come out. Not sure why they're not out now, since the kind of medical gameplay is pretty much tier 0 in the game. You could imagine the owners using these right now in game and having a lot of fun with them. So the Medivac, I think, is a lower tier, has lower tier medical bays, and the Triage is a more serious mini hospital, I believe. And I can't wait for these to come out. So all in all, guys, I forgot to speak about the Scorpius as well down here, which is the X-Wing heavy fighter. Which we all have been waiting for, and ironically, none of us were using the X because it was better to keep the wings folded in. But it's a 2-seater. It's got 8 guns, and it's a very capable heavy fighter. When it's fully crewed, you don't really want to fight one of these bad boys. So there is the fleet. So we got really, kind of a big foot in the high-end military large ship sort of market, RSI, and then on the other end they've got the Constellation and Aurora for the people with different variants to cater to different needs, and then they've specifically got mining covered with the Orion, again very high end. They've gone very high end, and with the two medical ships as well. So medical and mining ships for the people, and very large military ships for the UAE. So it's an interesting kind of mix, but it's not as broad as MISC, and it's more military orientated than Drake, which is not a surprise. So RSI's headquarters is on Sol, and I'm not going to go through all the planets and stuff. We're all very familiar with our solar system. You know, the things to note is that Mars was the first kind of planet to be terraformed by RSI, and we've got major sort of cities. Moscow, New York, I think Shanghai are kind of the major hubs on planet Earth when it comes to spaceports and stuff. The main feel I want to give you guys about planet Earth is the fact that it's the seat of the empire at the moment. And Terra is, for example, trying to, argue that it wants to also be the capital of the UAE. Things to note are that, resources and stuff has been kind of consumed on planet Earth. So planet Earth is very dependent on the empire importing nearly everything, right, for humanity to continue to exist on planet Earth. So they're taking a lot, right? They're taking a lot. And security in our solar system is extremely secure. The word extremely secure was used, right? So there is a lot of patrols. Obviously, UAE is patrolling the hoo-ha out of the solar system. So you would constantly be kind of monitored, constantly be checked. So you would kind of feel like you're in a police state, right? That's the kind of vibe I want to give you guys. A very strict, very monitored space when you enter the solar system. And you would expect that. It's kind of like going into Rome in the Roman Empire, right? The security is not going to be lax. But on top of all that, doing business is extremely difficult to make a profit because they depend on the empire to bring everything into planet Earth. They don't have much to give back. So taxes are very high. The cost of doing anything on planet Earth is very high because they have to try and make sure that their revenue stream is such that they can support the population. So anyone, for example, that wants to land at a spaceport will get taxed heavily. If you want to do some business, you'll get taxed heavily. So the value of 5% has been kind of thrown around. 5% is how much profit you'll be lucky to make when dealing with planet Earth. So that kind of led me to think that no one would want to do business with planet Earth because you're not making any business. But I think there is, and this is me theory crafting. Now, I have not read this, guys, but there must be some sort of force or something that kind of is forcing people to come and trade on planet Earth just to bring the food, bring the water, bring whatever they need, all the resources and stuff to do R&D and build stuff. I haven't read that there is a force, but because profit is so low, what I'm trying to allude is that the planet Earth takes a lot, and all it gives back is the fact that it rules you. So I could imagine a lot of bitterness throughout the verse or the UAE towards planet Earth. I could be wrong, but that's how I would envisage my stance if I lived on a system that was hundreds of, millions of light years away. I don't care about planet Earth. I grew up on this planet. My culture is here. Sure, planet Earth at some point was my ancestral homeland at some point, but that doesn't matter to me. And if doing business with them makes me feel like I'm getting ripped off constantly, it would just leave a bitter feeling, and I think that's where Terra is coming from. Also on planet Earth, just to add to that conservative feel, everything is very much pro-human, which, you know, you're not surprised. It is the humanity's kind of planet of birth. So everything's pro-human. So the Tavarans that live there, they would find it even more difficult to achieve their hopes and dreams and achieve their goals, let alone any other alien race. Whereas Terra is a lot more lax, a lot more flexible, a lot more like cosmopolitan in its policies and regulations. So that's why Terra is like, we should be the capital. We're a lot more forward thinking, and you know, we're a lot more accommodating to the situation of the verse that we're in, with, you know, all these different alien cultures and stuff. So that's the feel I want to give you guys. This sort of conservative, high security, expensive it's starting to sound like Australia sort of place. And you know, there's not much more to talk about, except if you zoom out, and I'm going to go 2D here. If you zoom out where Sol is, you know, Sol is connected. It's got 2 jump points in the solar system. One is to the Croshaw system, and the other one is to Davian, and that's it, right? Both of them are UE controlled. So in that aspect, it's a little bit of a cul-de-sac. It's a little bit of a which makes it a little bit safe, a little bit harder to invade. It's slightly closer to the Vandal Empire. It's not totally far away from the Vandal Empire, as you can see. They're probably just a few jumps away from hitting Croshaw and then getting to Sol. So it would be under an amount of threat from any Vandal invasion, but not direct threat. But that's about it from Sol, and yeah, that's where it's at. So in summary, guys, RSI is an extremely, or the most important ship manufacturer in the verse, because it created the quantum drive, it created terraforming, it creates spacesuits, engines, ship thrusters, power plants, you name it, RSI has built it. It's been involved in one of the most sensitive sort of political situations that led to the collapse of the Mesa era. So therefore, it's definitely one of the most important ship manufacturers. And today, it's responsible for some of the largest ships in the UE fleet as well. So RSI fans, hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment on what you think, on what I can improve. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe buttons, and onwards to the next ship manufacturer. Thank you guys. Bye for now.